Hello, I'm David.
And I'm Tamara. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight's going to be a good one. Emotional triggers. We all have them, but how do we manage them? And our guest, Rebekah Shackney, is going to answer that question, so don't go away.
The following program is presented by Loving Meditations.
Unwind and transform your mind with Peaceful Oasis Live, the concert series hosted by Tamara Green and David Dashinger of Loving Meditations. Masters of mindfulness, music, and storytelling transport you into a state of deep relaxation through soulful conversations, calming meditations, and expansive music, all brought to you live. View past episodes and sign up to get upcoming events and inspirations delivered to your inbox at peacefuloasislive.com. We appreciate you, our viewers, supporting our mission for peace and calm. And we're back. Let me introduce our guest. The podcast host of A Therapist Takes Her Own Advice. Rebekah Shackney, licensed certified social worker, is a psychotherapist offering online treatment throughout the tri-state area. I lost my place. I'm so sorry. She's a psychotherapist offering online treatment throughout the tri-state area, including dialectical behavioral therapy for individuals, families, and groups. And her passion is helping people reduce their suffering, oh thank God, by teaching skills to manage emotions, tolerate distress, improve communication, and live more mindfully. Let's bring on my wonderful friend and colleague, Rebekah Shackney. Hello.
Hey, Rebekah.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so great to have you. As a psychotherapist, my practice has exploded since COVID, and I'm just wondering, how about you?
Yes. Yeah, the phone is ringing off the hook, and I feel like I could work 24 hours a day. I finally had to figure out a way to pare everything back. So I started running groups so that I could serve more people in a smaller amount of time and still sometimes see my kids. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so in other words, you're taking your own advice, and right, personal time is really important, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Self-care.
Yeah, and it's so hard because it feels like an indulgence. It feels like we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing, and we're sneaking away to do, to take care of ourselves. But it's really, really important. It really is. Yeah. If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anyone else.
And we've been having these conversations with and about healthcare providers where burnout is such a big problem, and that's where the self-care piece comes in, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's only so much you can take, and you're as a healthcare provider, we are taking on other people's stuff, and our own stuff. So it's a lot. So we need to take care of ourselves. It's necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So dialectical behavioral therapy, before I ask you what that actually is, can I tell you both, I don't even know if I've ever told you this story. Can I tell you a really embarrassing story about DBT?
Absolutely.
I'm telling on myself here. So I was fresh out of, the master's program and just got my license, right? And I was working in a hospital, and I got referred my first outpatient client. And of course, what I heard, because I used to work in inpatient psych, what I used to hear was DBT is very good for, helping people with their emotions. And I knew DBT, but I didn't really know what it stood for. And at that time, I was asked by the parent of this young woman that I was seeing, what does DBT stand for? And I said, it just came out of my mouth really fast. Diabolical behavioral therapy.
That's fantastic.
So I know it's not diabolical. It's the opposite of that. What is dialectical behavioral therapy?
So dialectical behavior therapy is a model of therapy that was created by Marsha Linehan for people who struggle with very severe illness, people who are suicidal, self-injurious, and really struggle with emotion regulation. Dialectical basically means taking two opposites and synthesizing them into a new truth. So emotion mind and reasonable mind become wise mind. You know, and there are a lot of different dialectics that opposites that we want to bring together. Black and white thinking, we want to synthesize that into gray. We want to find the kernel of truth in someone else's perspective so that we can connect with people.
Right.
So,
I never thought of that before, but I'm thinking balance. You're creating balance. That's probably what you're doing as the dialectical behavioral therapist is helping create more balance in someone's life. So how does that work? Can we call it DBT? Because it's so much easier to say.
Absolutely. It's much easier to say.
I don't want to slip up and say diabolical.
Diabolical?
Yeah. So what is it, and how come it works? Because I know it really does work very, very well.
Well, it does. It works if you practice it, but it's balancing. The big balance is acceptance and change. So accepting where we are now and working to change and improve. And we go with the assumption that people in every moment, no matter what, are doing the best they can given the circumstances, and they have to push harder and try more to do better. So, and the goal is to reduce your suffering. I always say to my clients, I don't ever do anything or tell you anything because I want you to be a nicer person or a kinder person or a better mom or whatever. I want you to reduce your suffering. So there are 5 modules with DBT. Distress tolerance, learning how to tolerate the distress that everybody experiences at some point in your life. Interpersonal effectiveness, learning how to get your needs met without burning bridges, without feeling taken advantage of. Emotion regulation, learning how to get a handle on your emotions so you don't always feel like your emotions are controlling you. And all of that is done under the umbrella of mindfulness. And I forgot one. Walking the middle path, and that is taking two opposites and synthesizing them into a new truth. So those 5 modules. The 5th, the Walking the Middle Path, is generally done with teens and parents, but I like to teach it to everybody because I think it's so important.
So then let's talk about that, because I know I run groups and I understand the power, but I don't know if other people understand the true power of groups. What is that? Why do you think they're so powerfully effective?
Well, we as human beings want so desperately to connect with other people, and we want to share our experiences, and we want to feel seen. And being in a group where I think being in a dyad with another therapist, when there's this power differential. The therapist is the knowing person who is giving you advice and doing whatever, which can be fantastic. And I'm not saying anything negative about therapy, individual therapy, but groups help people connect to each other. It can reduce their own feelings of shame and guilt and discomfort about, their own worries about what they're experiencing. what their kids are going through. A lot of these parents who have kids who are suicidal and self-injurious are living in silence. They're not telling their friends, and they're not talking about it in the pickup line at school. It feels shameful, and yet, of course, it's not. These kids are just doing the best they can, but I think that having parents be able to just talk about what they're experiencing, and having somebody else say, I'm experiencing that too, and it's really powerful. And I think it's powerful for parents. It's powerful for teens. I run young adult groups and regular adult groups, and everybody really likes to connect.
I love that.
And I would add to that from personal experience in groups that sometimes you get information you might not get in a one-to-one therapist relationship. Other people have found workarounds or hacks or solutions to common problems.
Yeah. It's funny, sometimes I feel guilty when other people take the reins and start talking to each other, and I'm just sitting back and letting it happen. It's kind of fabulous, and it's like, I'm not even working here.
Yeah.
So-
Although I think the magic also is when the group leader can hold the space for the group and kind of kick back and let the group start to do what it does best, and that's to support each other, to share, to kind of have that common ground. And sometimes, and I think this is how you work, right? It's not necessarily like so much verbal as it is energetic.
Yeah. Yeah. My experience is that when there's an intense problem and only two people are hearing about the problem, like the therapist and the patient, individual, whatever you want to say, it's just two people containing that. But then when you get into a group, you have this entire opening of space that's containing the issue or the problem or the fear or the upset or whatever it happens to be. And suddenly there's just this big space that's holding all of that. And it just feels, I hear it all the time, and I'm sure you do too, Rebekah, that it just feels good to, it's safe. It feels good. It's not so confining and restricted. You're really feeling quite supported because you have a whole group behind you.
Yeah. And what's really great is when they support each other and cheer each other, and when there are things to celebrate. So that's so it's both, and it's the holding the pain and the difficulty, and it's connecting and celebrating and cheering each other on.
Absolutely. Wow, fantastic. I love this conversation. We're going to be right back after a break.
Excellent.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise. And now there's something in the air and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Oh, dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all.
Peaceful Oasis Live is on the E360 TV app. Watch us live on the Health and Wellness channel and catch our past episodes on your favorite smart device by downloading the E360 TV app from the App Store.
And we're back.
Yeah, with Rebekah Shackney. So You're going to do, in about 10 minutes, you're going to do an amazing meditation or process that helps with difficult emotions. And your wonderful husband is going to be accompanying you with his music. So excited for that. But let's talk about difficult emotions. When you say difficult emotions, what is it? And start to give us an understanding of how to work through them.
Well, we need emotions, first of all. So I want to just take a step back and talk a little bit about, why we have emotions. So we have emotions to protect us, to keep us connected, and we evolved with emotions, and that's why they're so powerful and can feel so intense at times. And then, sometimes the emotions, for instance, fear or anxiety, we need that to protect us against walking off the edge of a cliff, or, fear protects us from doing that. Anxiety protects us when we're walking down a dark alley. We need to feel a little anxious and on guard. But when we have paralyzing fear of elevators, and elevators are not inherently dangerous statistically, then the fear isn't serving us. When we have paralyzing fear of speaking in public, which is not inherently dangerous, although it is one of the number one fears that people have, we have the same reaction we would have if we were walking down a dark alley, but it's around something that's not serving us. So we feel that same discomfort that would normally protect us, but it's being misdirected. It's being directed in a way that's not serving us. And so when I talk about difficult emotions or uncomfortable emotions, I'm talking about, when an emotion doesn't fit the facts of a situation and is not serving us. So I'm not sure that answered your question at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're talking about anxiety, maybe even some phobia or panic, difficult emotions. Does it include anything else in terms of what DBT really helps with?
Sure. Shame, fear, envy, jealousy, disgust. These are all hardwired emotions, and they all have a place. And a lot of times, those emotions have been misdirected. We feel shame for things that are not really connecting us to each other. Why do we have shame? We have shame so that we don't pee on the floor, because in our culture, peeing on the floor is not okay, and it would get us alienated. People would not want to hang out with us, right? But there are things that are not shameful and we feel embarrassed about, and we don't want to talk about, or again, with things that produce anxiety that are not actually dangerous. We have envy, so that motivates us to meet our goals in life. But sometimes envy can be so paralyzing that it becomes toxic, and it keeps us from even engaging in the things we want, and we stay stuck just wishing we had the things that we want.
Right.
So,
And then,
yeah.
so that's sort of looking at it from the perspective of the emotions holding us back. What about when people act kind of in haste or spontaneously with an emotional charge? How does that come into play?
So when you say that, I think of anger, and anger is a very motivating emotion. And we need it, it fits the facts when it motivates us to get out of abusive relationships, or to get out of situations, terrible things, slavery or that sort of thing. But often what ends up happening is we get irritated with our boss at work. We can't yell at him. We know we're not supposed to yell at our boss. We get irritated with the traffic. We get irritated with things, and they build up throughout the day. And then we come home and find out that our partner didn't buy the milk, and we explode. And that's when anger is ineffective, because we are bringing all of our emotional stress from the day and shooting it out onto our partner, and then now our partner's angry at us, and that might go into another a huge thing, a huge issue.
And then the
damage
kids
our
are in
relationship.
the corner wondering, what's going on with mom and dad?
Right. It's scary for the kids. And I'm not saying, oh, you should never fight with your partner. Of course, people are going to argue with their partner.
Nor should you not ever get angry. Of course, it's
Right.
that can be
Of
quite
course.
appropriate too.
Yeah. So, but what we want to do instead is work to build our awareness of how we're feeling, what are we feeling when we're feeling it, and know, I can't yell at my boss, but what can I do? How can I manage and release that emotional stress so that I don't come home and yell at my partner?
Yeah.
Sure. And so can you give us an example of a healthy way to release that, the stress and emotional charge?
Sure. There are tons of ways, and I feel like people need to find out what works for them. But exercise is excellent for that. And I know it's almost cliche. People are, oh, I'm always being told to exercise, but it works so well to mitigate depression, anxiety, to manage emotional stress. Meditation is excellent. Again, I know it's almost cliche at this point. We know we're supposed to meditate. But it really rewires your brain and makes you much more able to manage emotional stress. If you can't tolerate sitting, practice meditation on a walk. Take a mindful walk. Do yoga. I've been doing yin yoga lately, which is where you hold poses for a period of time, and it's very meditative, and it helps reduce stress. You can vent to friends. You can write in a journal. There are so many different things that you can do.
One of the things
list
that
is-
David and I did during our stressful cancer treatment period was we would go on a walk. God bless you, honey. You, even during the worst treatment, he always went out for a walk, even in the dead of winter. And we would do this thing called the gratitude walk. And we were, stressed out as we started, but by the end of that walk, we were just feeling really good. So gratitude is really,
yeah.
the moving
Yeah, the body movement, just
plus,
trying to release stress and all the built up energy and anxiety by literally moving. And sometimes stretching does it, sometimes walking. It doesn't have to be an elaborate, posture or anything like that. But
Yeah.
and combining that with the gratitude piece was huge, because then we were shifting our perspective from the negative to the positive. What do we appreciate rather than what can we complain about?
Yeah.
So there's
And
a lot
that's
of
huge.
yeah.
So,
And do we have time for another juicy question?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good. Because I'm dying to ask this. So, action urge, I've heard you talk about this, Rebekah, action urge versus go urge, is that? No, go against urge. Action urge versus go against urge. Can you please explain that?
So an action urge, every emotion has an action urge. So shame is you cover your face, or disgust, anger, you're going to fight, fear, you're going to run. Those are our action urges. So if we get, again, really angry at our boss and our action urge, fight, we don't want to really punch our boss in the face. So we want to act opposite. We want to gently avoid. Okay, take a deep breath. I'm getting angry. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go to the bathroom and splash some cold water on my face and literally chill out. I'm going to, tip the temperature of my body. That's a distress tolerance skill, so that I don't punch my boss in the face. And I know it seems silly, but we do have to do these things to manage our action urges. And maybe punching. Most of us have learned not to punch our boss in the face, but do we actually get rid of the emotional stress? Yeah. I think a lot of us find ourselves screaming at traffic instead.
Mm-hmm. Or our spouses or
our
kids
spouses. Yeah.
Right.
In less dangerous situations when we're not going to get fired or thrown in jail or whatever.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you for explaining that. And David and I are very excited about your process that you're going to be doing on managing difficult emotions. Do you want to introduce our friend David?
I would love to. So we're going to bring on our good friend David Dibbs Shackney, who has been a colleague of mine in the music business, and we are thrilled to be with another couple who are doing a project together, have a mission together. So we're going to hand it off to Rebekah and David and their beautiful meditation.
Yes.
All right. I'm just having a little bit of technical difficulty because my computer just went black. So
All right, we're going to go to a quick break.
Right. I am so sorry.
We'll be right back.
The doctor told me the answer, and now my head is spinning. He said I'm living with cancer, and my journey is just beginning. I'm stressed out and afraid. I have cried and I have prayed. Time to quiet my mind and be still. Take a deep breath and just chill. I put in my earbuds and decompress. Touch play on the app to ease my stress. I'm choosing peaceful relaxation with loving meditations. I'm loving meditations.
All right.
All right.
Are we good to go?
We are good to go. Thank
Excellent.
you. All right. So, for the purpose of this meditation, I will ask you to bring to mind an uncomfortable emotion. Try to choose something that still has some heat, but not something that might overwhelm you. In the beginning, it's best to start slowly and build up your ability to tolerate emotions bit by bit. To begin, close your eyes and take a few long, slow, deep breaths. With each exhalation, allow your body to become more and more relaxed. Scan your body and notice if you're holding any tension. With your next inhalation, imagine a warm white light moving through your body and soothing any tension you might feel. Now turn your focus to an uncomfortable emotion. Guilt, shame, envy, fear, anger, anxiety, grief. Become aware of how the emotion manifests in your body. become aware of how the emotion manifests in your mind. Notice the sensations. Butterflies in your stomach, tension in your shoulders, heat in your face, jitteriness throughout. Notice the impulse to push away. Notice the impulse and don't fall into it. This is uncomfortable, and you can tolerate it. Notice the thoughts associated with your emotion. I can't stand this. I will never feel better. Reframe the thoughts. This is uncomfortable, and you can tolerate this. Notice the urge to distract or avoid with food, alcohol, screens, or just pushing away in your mind. Notice this urge and let it go. We need our emotions. They serve us. They protect us from danger. They motivate us for change. They allow us to experience the richness of life through joy and love. We need emotions, and sometimes they are scary. Sometimes they're uncomfortable. When we've pushed away or avoided emotions, over time they might get misconstrued, the message is confused, and they no longer tell us what we need to know. We're afraid of things that are not actually dangerous. We try to avoid things that we need to lean into. We feel guilt when we haven't done any harm. Sometimes shame and envy and anger have been magnified and confused to the point of being ineffective for us. And when that happens, we need to retrain our brains to tolerate emotions bit by bit, turn by turn. So we lean into the feelings. We allow the feelings. We watch our emotions as they ebb and flow, like we're riding a wave on the ocean. If we stand at the edge of the water, we'll be overwhelmed and pulled under by the waves. But if we swim out and ride the waves, the ups and downs, we will not sink. We will not be pulled under. Similarly, when you ride the waves of your emotion, Tolerate the discomfort, not push it away. It will eventually dissipate. Nothing that has ever entered your mind stays forever. Every thought, every sensation, every emotion eventually moves away. Hold your emotion at arm's length and notice as it ebbs and flows. Notice as the wave peaks and dissipates. Notice that you can tolerate the urge to push away without pushing away. You can tolerate the urge to want to escape without escaping. Because your emotions will not destroy you. They may feel scary, and you can get through them. The more you lean in to the discomfort, the more you will get used to them. And eventually, there'll be things that you can live with, sensations you can tolerate. With each exhalation, let go of a little bit more emotional stress. Scan your body once more and notice if there's any remaining tension. And with your next inhalation, breathe in warm white light and allow it to soothe away your tension. And as it soothes away your tension, allow the remaining emotional stress to leave your body. Take a few more long, slow, deep breaths. And when you're ready, open your eyes and return your focus to the room.
Wow. So I learned something. So you're not going to believe this, but after all these years, and we were talking decades ago, that I made that comment about the diabolical behavioral therapy. And it was, since it's, I just talked about it, it was very much on my mind. And there's so much embarrassment around that. And I still had a trigger. Wow. And so I decided, let me just take that, because really, every time I've thought about it ever since then, I just get the sense of embarrassment. And like you said, the heat is just right in my face. But the whole process was about accepting and tolerating, being willing to just have the experience of it. And there's something very healing and releasing with that. Just it was the first time I really sat and just said, you know what? It's okay. I can feel this emotion, and I'm not going to resist it anymore. You know, it really was a reframe for me. Wow. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Oh, that's so wonderful. And I think you're not alone, Tamara. I think so many people suffer with these emotions that kind of stab them in the stomach when they bring them to mind. And really, if rather than continuing to push down those emotions and avoid them, if we allow them, they will go away. But nobody's ever taught us to allow and process. People, we're an emotion-phobic society, and we're told to suck it up and push it down and get through it. And so, but really, that doesn't do anything. When you push it down, it's like, I say this all the time, it's like trying to push a ping pong ball in water. That's trying to push down emotions. It keeps popping up. And so the only way to get rid of it is to allow it and feel it and process it and reframe it in your mind.
Exactly. Yeah, and even got to the point of saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I was apologizing to myself, like, "I'm so sorry that you gave yourself so much hell over that pretty innocent comment, because I was nervous. It was a first client, and it was a parent asking me these questions, and it was pretty intense. So I was nervous and blurted that word. So that was very helpful. Wow, thank you so much.
I'm so happy to hear that.
And Dibs, the music was just phenomenal. Just so wonderful to have you accompany Rebekah in her great meditation. We love the fact that you're another couple that has taken two completely, seemingly disparate skill sets and combined them to do what you do. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny.
Sure.
Like, normally,
Go ahead.
I add the music after the meditation, when we record a meditation. And so to do it together, this is really, I think, the first time we did it together. And it was a very different kind of flow. It was very interesting.
Yes. There's something sort of walking on the tightrope about doing it live, right?
Absolutely.
Oh boy.
He's revealing everything now.
I'll tell you, just to put all our cards on the table, the iPad went black. I guess my script went away, so I was making it up as I went along.
Yes, and this is every week we have at least 3 or 4 ongoing technical emergencies during the show that we kind of have to solve, and I guess that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
But Rebekah, it was fantastic, and it's really probably more about your energy and your vibe than much more than the actual words.
Yeah. Both of you are like tuning forks, boom, you both, the music and your voice and the words, it was just, really tuning us to just be able to relax and let go, truly let go. Wow, loved it. So we're going to take a quick little break, right?
What time we have? We'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about the podcast that the two of you are creating together.
Perfect.
What if living with cancer could give us the opportunity to press the reset switch? When I received the diagnosis and the treatment for stage 4 cancer, I totally hit bottom, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And from down there in the muck, the only place to go was up. So I asked the question, what's the gift in this situation? And the answer I got was, it's the opportunity to press the reset switch. So what could I do different? What could I create new in my life from this perspective? What if we took this as an opportunity to lighten up and play more, to have more fun, to laugh more, to dance more? What if we took this as the opportunity to receive more, especially from others, friends, family, who are showing up to contribute during our challenging and painful times? What if we took this as the opportunity to receive more from nature, which is always there gifting us with beauty and possibility? How can we look at the challenges of this cancer experience as an opportunity to create something new and to press the reset switch? This has been a Loving Meditations Mindful Minute.
And we're back with Rebekah and David Dibbs Shackney. Just curious, Dibbs, what's your creative process when you guys are creating meditation together or anything else for that matter? How do you work?
Well, I think we started by trying to figure out what the format was. We kind of, and for the podcast specifically, we did a bunch of interviews and kind of figured out what they had in common, and then drew a roadmap that kind of created a cohesive podcast out of that. And then we injected the meditation portion of it, and I think it all works together really well. Well, we're also doing segments on DBT skills specifically. Mm-hmm. So specific skills featured in each episode. And I think those are very helpful as well. And
is it audio, video, both?
Right now it's just audio. We will have video shortly.
And what's the name of it? Where can people find it?
Rebekah?
It's called A Therapist Takes Her Own Advice, and you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. So, yeah.
And then soon you're going to have a YouTube channel with the same name? Or?
I'm not sure what the name is going to be, but it will definitely be presented by A Therapist Takes Her Own Advice. So that will help lead people. Yeah. I also have a mailing list, so if you're interested in more information, go to my website, RebekahShackney.com, and sign up for my mailing list, and you will get all the information.
That's fantastic. And, we have to talk about this because I don't know why we haven't mentioned this yet. Rebekah, you and I worked together at the same inpatient psych hospital.
Yes.
Years ago. I don't know. That was a long time ago.
It was in 2005 or 6.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And that's how we got to know each other. And then we ended up in the same networking group together, which was really great. Mm-hmm. And then talk about how you and so 2 social workers and then the 2 musicians, and talk about what you guys did together.
Well, I think the 2 of you must have had a conversation and realized that your husbands were composer, producer, musicians, engineers, and you connected Dibbs and I. And we went on to have a really successful run doing music for CBS Sports in particular, together, separately, but really was a very, very creative collaboration. Mm-hmm. So we thank you for that. And it's I keep thinking it's unusual that a musician and a social worker would have, common ground to create something, but here we are, two couples, and we're all doing it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually, the way I connected, Tamara and I shared an office, and
yes, we did.
I was eavesdropping. I think that she was talking to you, David, on the phone, and I heard her say something about music.
She does that.
I didn't mean to. But I did, and I just asked. I asked Tamara for the information, and it worked out beautifully.
Yeah. And Dibbs, you actually did music for Broadway, right?
No.
I'm getting you mixed up with somebody else. Okay, never mind.
She did commercials and stuff
she does that often. Is that what you're thinking? Okay. Wait, I'm sorry. What did you
commercials.
say?
I've been doing commercials before I met Dave.
Okay. So, yeah, I think it's really cool that the 4 of us are actually playing together in this way tonight.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
Yeah,
so would love to hear more about A Therapist Takes Her Own Advice podcast. I listened to it, really, really enjoyed the interview. I think you were talking to a music therapist, and it was so cool to hear even some of your background, Rebekah. I think you were going to be a drama therapist or something like that. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that. But it was a great interview. Really enjoyed the podcast.
You. Yeah. No, my undergraduate degree is in theater. So I thought about being a drama therapist, and then I realized, insurance companies reimburse social workers better. So I did that instead. But don't tell anybody.
No.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I love doing the podcast. It's actually a way to combine my theater background with social work and therapy. And it started out many, many years ago. I started a blog called A Therapist Takes Her Own Advice. And I wanted for years to do the podcast because I knew, I'm married to David, to Dibbs, and he has a recording studio in our basement. And so, but we never did it until the pandemic hit, and we were kind of home alone with not a whole lot to do, and finally it was like, well, we should do this. And it also felt like a way to connect with people and to offer something, because I think everybody felt so helpless, stuck in our houses, separate from from each other. So it was a way for us to, contribute, I think, and connect with other people.
Absolutely. That's how Peaceful Oasis came about as well. We, for years, had been thinking about doing live meditation concerts and live events, and we were doing some, but with COVID, that all changed. And so we decided to do it on a virtual platform. But it was, it was like the, how can you kind of make lemonade out of the lemon that COVID was? And so it's so cool you guys are doing, have created a podcast from that it's so relevant to what's going on with people being, ultra stressed. And I know that Tamara her practice is quite busy with helping people who are in great need of therapy, more therapy than ever. And so thank you for doing this, putting your service out there, this beautiful podcast. So what's your timetable, you think, to bring the next batch of podcasts?
We are recording some now, and hopefully in the next, I know that we're going to release the videos probably in the next few weeks. And as we release videos, there will be corresponding audio. So stay tuned.
Okay.
Fantastic. I'm a little curious about how you came up with the title. I love the title. A Therapist Takes Her Own Advice.
Oh, well, I found that at one point I had been working with a patient, a client, who I started to feel jealous of because she had written a book and she was doing these things that I always wanted to do. And I was feeling this jealousy, and yet I wasn't doing the things. I was just sitting with this feeling of that she gets to do this and I don't get to do this. And I thought, whoa, I should maybe take my own advice and practice what I preach. If my client came in and said that to me, I would say, well, maybe start taking steps toward doing what you want to do. And I continue to do that. Since we started the podcast, I actually really have started treating my practice like a business instead of like, that hobby. I'm a full-time mom, part-time therapist. Now I actually, treat it like a full-time business, and I hired somebody to help me with marketing and do all of those other things. And I'm taking care of myself, getting good supervision on a regular basis, and getting massages and doing things that I always said I'm going to have to do if I work a lot. Just taking care of myself is so important, as we said in the beginning, practicing self-care.
Yep.
But so few people actually do it or think that they are just being self-indulgent, like I said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, and
Well,
then
this
you
has
end
been
up
a-
paying for it in the end. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, it's great.
Yes, we do pay for it in the end. Yeah.
What I was going to say is this has been such a wonderful conversation with the both of you, and also the meditation, the music. Dibs, your technical expertise has made this show just a pleasure to do, and we really thank the both of you for being here with us tonight.
Yeah,
It's our
been
pleasure.
absolutely wonderful having you on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
And
us.
You.
yes, and you'll want to come back in 2 weeks when we have Luz, Angela, and Ivan, who will be talking about Luz Angela will be talking about it, making friends with death. A very, very interesting topic. So that's on August 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're so happy that you joined us, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.